There's your flyover, the feature match area, World Magic Cup 2012. I'm Sheldon Menery and Zach Hill bringing you all the action. Barn burner.
Certainly starting out right with a flipped Delver attacking on the second turn of the game. Gitaxian Probe revealing 2 Solemn Simulacrums and 2 lands. And just a grip full of lands with 2 lands on the table. Not really the most exciting grip from Juza's side of the table.
Looks like Juza is on a ramp deck of some kind. Both these players
Triad
came into the round.
Yeah, you don't have to do that.
Came in 4 and 2.
Juza telling him he does not need to tear up pieces of paper to remember the Quirion Dryad mana. About as powerful as a start as Hayne can get. Whereas Juza just sitting and playing lands. I think he was on a mulligan, kept a hand with lands and spells, not really accomplishing just a whole lot, although he's going to get the Solemn Simulacrums next turn. He used the Cavern of Souls on Dryad, but that's pretty much the one thing that it wants to target. It might just go off right now and start attacking for a huge amount with that Quirion Dryad.
Looks like Lucas is indeed playing the deck that we just saw in the deck tech. I'm sorry, Alexander is playing the deck we saw with Lucas Siao and Brian David Marshall in the tournament center. Ponder helps him look at his deck, helps him make his Quirion Dryad bigger. So he's got 5 power right now, ready to come in on turn 3.
Right, I mean, he's playing, he might play around Galvanic Blast, the only reason not to totally go all in, but I mean, I think at this point, he knows about the Solemn Simulacrum, so he's probably just going to play a land, represent Mana Leak, attack for 5 points of damage, and, you know, just totally go crazy next turn. I mean, I could see him, he probably wants to keep that Gut Shot back in case Juza tries to cast Galvanic Blast on the Quirion Dryad.
You're 16, and then you take 6, you're 10.
I'm trying to understand why Quirion Dryad got another. Oh, because he went ahead and used the gut shot. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
He gut shot it to his face.
Let's trade 2 for 2. Yeah, 0 mana. When you're the aggressor, why not?
Juza already all the way down to 10. Doesn't look. We've got a headshot of Martin on the side camera, and you can tell he's not pleased at this situation.
No, Juza very upset. Obviously, when you're up against basically a deck that can play as a control deck, as we heard about in the video, you don't want to be at 10 life on turn 3, or 11 life on turn 3. Juza does announce Huntmaster the Fells. There's no way that's not getting mana leaks. Yeah, I'm sure he says very upset, clearly. His Bonfire looking pretty embarrassing against a 4/4 Quirion Dryad. Yeah, this is not going to be a long game.
Probe 14, this gets a counter.
Hayne casting Gitaxian Probe. Juza just staring at his hand, kind of not able to react.
3.
He's got at least 2 Solemn Simulacrums, a Bonfire of the Damned. I think he might be contemplating whether to concede so that Hayne doesn't see the Bonfire of the Damned in his deck.
Reasonable. It's I mean, Martin Juza is a top pro. It's the kind of thing that guys at that level think about.
Right.
There's again, there's the game within the game.
I mean, you have to sit and think, like, what is he going to do here that's going to make him not lose this game, right? I mean, he can potentially get a Solemn on the table, but it's probably going to get Vapor snagged, and even if it doesn't, the Insectile Aberration comes over the top and just kills him, and Juza, I mean, he's just slumping in his chair. I mean, it's a really huge beating. You can't fault Hayne for playing the game properly. I mean, he's got to cast his cards.
Sure.
But every, you know, spell after spell after spell, it's just more vicious from Juza's side of the table.
Snag this, gets a counter.
I think he's just going in for lethal on this turn. He's got 10 points of damage right now. And he's going to just, yeah, I guess attack for... Attack for 10.
Go.
It says go. So he decided that getting the Quirion Dryad so big that no combination of burn spells could kill it was enough. And yeah, that's going to be the game right there.
All right, on to game 2 quickly. Martin Juza there on the left, Alexander Hayne on the right.
Well, I mean, yeah, Juza's got to be upset about that. I mean, turn 1 Delver flipping into turn 2 Quirion Dryad. He's a deck with a ton of removal spells. I mean, I don't know exactly what list he's on, but a lot of the Wolf Run ramp decks are played because of cards like Whip Flare, 1-mana spells that can get rid of other 1-damage creatures, and Juza had absolutely none of that on the mulligan.
Looking to face a greater challenge? Take your game to a Grand Prix and see how you fare against the best players in your region, as well as top visiting Magic pros. Upcoming Grand Prix include Boston, Worcester, Costa Rica, Moscow, San Jose, California, and Philadelphia. For more information, visit www.wizards.com/Grand Prix.
All right, so Hayne siding in Jace Memory Adept. I saw a sort of Worn piece, I think. A lot of just sort of one-ups to diversify his strategy. Obviously, Gut Shot very, very weak in this matchup. I have to expect 4 of those are coming out. Not quite sure exactly what else he's siding in. I would guess Thragtusk, just to have some more mid-range threats and some more resilience against Juza's Burn Suite. You've got to, try play an early clock and disrupt him enough to have that end the game. Then you go over the top with a couple of late game threats.
Well, we saw Lucas talk about in the deck tech about Jace just being so good against the ramp decks.
Right. It's like you just stay ahead, and if they don't have a Titan on the table, you just deck them in 2 or 3 activations. I wonder if he's bringing in Torpor Orb. I mean, yeah, that can stop some of the Titans. It stops Huntmaster of the Fells.
Right.
It stops Thragtusk. I mean,
stops Solemn Simulacrum.
Right. Exactly. I mean,
that seems like a lot of value out of that card.
No, it definitely is. I mean, I guess the only reasons you wouldn't do it are concerned about cards like Ancient Grudge and Crushing Vines. But I mean, it's so devastating that you have to say, okay, I've got 1 copy. It'll definitely be worth it.
Yeah, I can't imagine worrying that your Torpor Orb is going to eat an Ancient Grudge when there might be better targets for it.
Right. Now you've got a lot of options coming out of the board for Hayne. You've got Dissipate, Negate if you want to use some counter magic after deploying Delver, maybe protect it from a removal spell, maybe get rid of a ramp spell, obviously, and then if they don't have a Cavern naming a particular card type, countering their huge threat. Mutagenic Growth could possibly be an option against some burn spells, but I don't think it's worth it. The only thing I am 100% sure about is that you do not want pay 2 life Hornet Sting in your deck after sideboard against Wolf Run Ramp. So I would bet a lot that those cards came out.
You don't want to gut shot the mana guys?
I don't know that he has any. I think he's a Wolf Run deck. I don't know that he has birds and birds or elves. Oh, it used to be that greens. It used to. Oh yeah, we have deck list now. How lucky!
List. Rampant Growth Sphere.
Lucky.
It looks like he's playing Luis's list.
Yep, no mana birds.
It used to be a thing that they would Green Sun Zenith into 1 Bird of Paradise, but with Gut Shots flying around, it's just not worth it to do that anymore. Yeah, it looks like he's playing exactly Luis's list.
Which unfortunately did not serve Luis Scott Vargas particularly well.
Today was not Luis's day.
The American team is going on to game 2, day 2, minus
I gave Mulligan
one of the best players in the world.
Right, if you asked me which player was going to be in last place, I would not have said Luis Scott Vargas on the American team.
Juza.
Oh, if we can? All right, go.
Starts with Copperline Ridge.
Copperline Gorge over there.
Gorge, sorry.
Now, Hayne playing an island does not appear to have a turn 1 Delver this time. Now, interestingly, he is casting Ponder before casting Gitaxian Probe, so he's losing the ability to cast Gitaxian Probe and play a turn 1 Delver if he top decks it. I guess he thinks that after sideboarding, Juza has enough removal that he doesn't need to be all in on that play, and he just wants to ponder in his best possible spells.
Hayden doesn't look like what he sees, so he ships them and shuffles.
Could be he's just trying to get some mana. I mean, it's really hard to tell. You have so many options when you cast a card like Ponder that it's really dependent upon what your game plan is as a player.
Ponder. I'm sure there are a lot of players less skilled than these guys that just lose games to pondering.
Oh, it is. Yeah, that happens all the time. I mean, and sometimes it's just difficult to notice that you lost because you pondered incorrectly, and that means that you're just not likely to correct your mistake. Now we see a Sphere of the Suns on Juza's side of the table, so he has some mana acceleration this time. A Gitaxian Probe out of Hayne's side is going to see if the way is clear, is going to inform his next play. With Huntmaster of the Fells and Thragtusk, you've got to think that Hayne wants to get Torpor Orb onto the table as soon as he can. There's also
assuming he set it in.
I know it's in his hand right now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. And so my guess is that's what he's going to do, unless he thinks he just really needs to mana leak something. But, you know, there's no Ancient Grudge, no Crushing Vine, so I feel like you just want to play that and sort of get the Huntmaster out of the way and the Thragtusk out of the way before they even happen. On the other hand, I guess you could represent Mana Leak, but no, he does choose to cast Torpor Orb.
Gotta make Martin Juza not happy.
No. And the Pillars of Flame also looking particularly weak, given that Hayne doesn't have a Delver of Secrets. And if his plan is Talrand or Snapcaster Mage, those cards can get their value before Pillar of Flame gets to do its thing.
Right. Well, there's the Huntmaster.
Kind of awkward in this matchup. I mean, unless he's just passing to say go. Oh, I guess Hayne passes. He's going to put the Huntmaster trigger on the stack. Was that intentional? I guess his plan is just to counter the Thragtusk, but Juza drew a huge Cavern of Souls right here that can get him through counter magic. I mean, you have to think Hayne just should have cast a 1-mana cantrip or something.
To not get the transform.
And not allow Huntmaster to transform. That's a very confusing play to me.
Beast.
Yeah, it just can't do anything about that Thragtusk.
Go.
With Torpor Orb in play, it doesn't gain any life for Martin Juza, but it still provides a guy.
Right.
And if he gets, if he gets rid of it, then it's going to provide another guy.
I mean, yeah, this is just perplexing to me. I mean, he can't know that Juza's going to have the Cavern of Souls, but he has to at least anticipate that Cavern is in his deck, and he had Mana Leak in his hand, so there was absolutely no reason that he couldn't have cast Thought Scour on his main phase. I'm pretty sure at this point that was just a mistake. And it's punishing him, because now he has to use Vapor Snag on the Huntmaster. Thragtusk is resolved. He doesn't have any real board presence.
So end of turn, Hayne Vapor Snag the Huntmaster.
Yes.
Sorry, the Ravager of the Fells. The
Ravager of the Fells. And again, he took 4 damage, and it's not clear to me that he had to, given he had Mana Leak in his hand. I mean, maybe he's just playing super conservatively. But now he's got a plan of just survive for a while and go off with Talrand. I think he just wants, you know, lands and free or extremely cheap spells and try to just put a board of Drakes on the table as soon as he can.
You see Snapcaster in his hand.
Right. He's got...
You see Talrand.
Yes.
You see Thought Scour.
You see Snapcaster Mage, like you said. Does not have a 4th land, however. He does want to keep up Mana Leak for any possible Titan that could come down, or the Huntmaster again, given that his back's against the wall with Thragtusk taking 5-point chunks out of his life total.
Okay, so Thragtusk does get the attack. Hayne drops to 12. Juza at 19.
Now Juza has another Cavern of Souls. He probably wants to save that to name Giant.
Human.
Oh, no, I guess he's naming Human and getting the value out of the Huntmaster right now.
I'll use it.
He's using it, playing around the Mana Leak, only getting a 2/2, but again, he has the option to transform it again if Hayne lets him.
Go.
All of a sudden, Hayne at 7 life, Juza with exactly 7 damage on the table. A game that I didn't think Hayne was going to lose when he cast Torpor Orb, suddenly looking very, very bad for him.
End of turn, he flashes in Snapcaster just to have the guy.
Right, yeah. No targets.
Casting
main phase Thought Scour. Milling 2 lands, drawing a forest. The forest is going to allow him to cast Quirion Dryad, but with 2 Pillars of Flame and Juza's hand, that Quirion Dryad's not going to accomplish a whole lot.
Correct. So from out in the field, we hear that Yagor Bigersma has gone up a game on Philip Valley. Marco Orsini-Jones has gone up a game on John Paul Kelly. And Paulo Vitor Dama de Rosa has gone up 1 game on Dennis Rashid.
All right, so I think we're going to see Game 3 very, very shortly. All Juza has to do is kill those creatures with the Pillar of Flames and attack through for the exact 7 points of damage. And maybe he wants to play around Vapor Snag. Maybe he just attacks first and plans on setting the pillars at his head if he doesn't block with both of his creatures. But either way, Juza's an extremely dominant position right now, especially when he can play the Kessig Wolf Run. Obviously, going all in on that makes him, again, more vulnerable to Vapor Snag, but gives him an additional tool if Hayne's plan is to simply block. Looks like he's going to get the creatures out of the way.
Okay.
Yep. That's it for the Dryad. And yeah, okay, he's on the Kessig Wolf Run plan now.
Remember, you can just activate Wolf Run to give something trample. You don't need to dump any mana into it.
Now, a judge question for you. He touched both his creatures, turned them sideways, and then untapped them as if he was going to think about doing something. Does that mean he's in his beginning of combat stuff?
I'd put him there.
Sure. All right, so you see the Huntmaster get blocked by Snapcaster Mage. Juza opts not to kill him with Kessig Wolf Run because he's just going to burn him for lethal with Pillar of Flame and not expose himself to Vapor Snag.
Which he does, so we go to Game 3.
All right, well...
these games have been sort of fast and furious. There've been dominant positions in both games from both decks.
No, exactly, and that shows. I mean, you know, Wolf Run is kind of a slower deck, right? I mean, you have 6 Titans, a Green Sun Zenith, but sometimes it can just bash you with a threat on turn 3, a threat on turn 4, and you're dead by turn 6.
Right.
And correspondingly, Delver, if it gets a turn 1 Delver, pretty fast, but other times it can just slow down until eventually it almost combos you out with a card like Talran Sky Summoner.
We haven't seen much of the Talran. I mean, we've seen it in a couple sideboards. Haven't seen it be a big factor in play yet.
I was talking to Luis about that card because it's a card he definitely was respecting. He said a big problem with Talran in the main deck, even though it's extremely good in Delver Mirrors and a very powerful card, is that it's very vulnerable to both Whip Flare and Bonfire of the Damned, which cards cards that are really format defining and a lot of different decks are using to try and control all the 1-drops.
Dak Faden is the greatest thief in the multiverse. Follow his adventures in the Magic the Gathering comic produced by IDW. Special promo card, unique to the IDW comic series, comes in each issue. Find out more about these comics at www.wizards.com/magicmerchandise. So being on the play here is certainly going to be an advantage for Alexander Hayne.
Oh, absolutely.
And especially if he gets the turn 1 Delver.
Oh, exactly. And another interaction that's very important is that the Wolf Run deck has 4 copies of Cavern of Souls. So countering its creatures, especially its mid-late game creatures, talking about Huntmaster of the Fells, talking about Thragtusk, and of course any of the Titans, it's really a challenging proposition. But something you can do as the Delver deck when you're on the play is counter either Rampant Growth or Sphere of the Suns, which sometimes can prevent the Wolf Run deck from doing anything at all until the later turns. And in fact, your Delver, you're pretty sure, I mean, you're keeping him in, obviously. It's a very powerful card. But there's a lot of ways for you to kill it. A lot of ways for it to just die. But if you can just keep the Wolf Run deck from doing anything substantial, you set up your Talrans to be substantially more powerful. Or sometimes you have a draw, you know, with all the ponders and deck manipulation that can get you to your Jace. You just play that before they've even played a Solemn Simulacrum, and suddenly the game's going to be over very quickly.
All right, there's a good shot of Martin Juza, shuffling up his deck. Obviously, long-time pro, 270 lifetime Pro Tour points, 26 Pro Tour appearances. He finished 6th at Pro Tour Berlin in 2008, 7th in Austin 2009.
Yeah, and we were testing it. It was doing pretty well. I didn't get to play much with the deck, but
why do you think it's better?
So we hear a little by play.
What was the reason why you played it over blue-white?
Well, like, I don't know. I felt like the Angel wasn't that good, and Geist is.
Geist is sweet.
I don't know. There's a lot of decks which it's either really, really good or it's really, really bad.
Yeah. Right.
Yuza looking off into the distance saying,
This
I don't
seems
know that he
sweet.
really
All right.
buys
Am
Hayne's
I limited
argument.
testing after
Do you have
Lucas
something sweet
should.
for modern?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I'll play first.
Yeah.
Juza trying to get some information out of Alexander Hayne there about the Canadian team's plans for Modern.
But it's even awkward there too. Like, let's say the reason that you think that blue-green is better than blue-white is because you think Thragtusk out of the board is insane against Wolf Run Rat or something, right? You don't want to just say that to your opponent because then he knows what your plan is. So you just kind of have to eat the fact that you look maybe a little bit reticent. Yeah, I don't know. It just puts people in an awkward position. It's always funny to watch.
Kind of a sketchy keep for Hayne.
Dryad.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to name Dryad. He's going to cast Quirion Dryad. He does put Juza in a pretty awkward position. He either casts Sphere of the Suns or casts Pillar of Flame. I don't really know about Yuza's keep. I mean, it's Forest, or is that Cavern of Souls? Forest, Inkmoth Nexus, Sphere of the Suns, but he doesn't have any of the red mana to cast his Pillar of Flame or any of his early defenses. So he's sort of relying upon, I believe that's Huntmaster of the Fells to resolve and his Cavern of Souls to protect it. But the problem with that is that he's let Hayne untap with Quirion Dryad, and that Quirion Dryad's going to go crazy
It's going to be too big. It's going to be too big for direct damage to kill really, really fast.
Right. I mean, I get the lack of respect on Yuza's end for Quirion Dryad, or at least the implicit saying, why are you playing this deck as opposed to blue-white? Because there are a ton of gut shots, there are a ton of Pillars of Flame, there's Whip Flares, Slag Storms, there's a lot of burn. But if your opponent doesn't have it right then, you're going to untap and attack them with a 4/4 Quirion Dryad that's only going to get bigger.
Well, see, that's a trap that I see a lot of less skilled players fall into. Well, I'm not going to play this card because there are answers to it.
Oh,
when a card is really good, you just play it and make them answer it.
Well, yeah. Why do you think there are a bunch of answers to it?
Right.
Yeah? Because if you don't answer, you're dead. Yeah. Now where I anticipate Yuza casting the Huntmaster of the Fells this turn. It's possible he just wants to accelerate with double Sphere of the Suns into his Primeval Titan that he's got, and he can use the Cavern on that. It's kind of hard to say right now. I mean, you can't think your Huntmaster is going to do too much against that Dryad, but you also don't want to burn a Cavern of Souls on a lesser threat, or your Titan's just never going to resolve. You know, Hayne knows that you have a lot of different creature types, so just because you have 4 Cavern of Souls doesn't mean that Delver just sides out all of its counter spells, right? So a pretty interesting decision from Yuza's end. I mean, the other thing you don't want to do is burn all of your Sphere of the Suns when you don't have any lands that produce red mana for your burn spells. So a really tricky situation for Yuza to be in right now.
See him in the tank a little bit. He's not only is he planning out this turn, he's planning out the likelihoods of the next couple of turns. What if I play Huntmaster and it gets countered?
Exactly.
Or what if I play it and it doesn't get countered?
And the other thing is, like, doing anything right, or particularly playing a creature, opens up Hayne's Vapor Snags, which means he's going to take even more damage from the Quirion Dryad. Now, he does opt with that line of play, casting Huntmaster of the Fells, gaining 2 life, going back up to 20, and putting a very brilliant-looking token onto the battlefield. You have to expect Hayne going to let that resolve, which he has, and just Vapor Snag the token and then in turn save his counters for something more relevant. A pair of Vapor Snags from Hayne.
That's a counter.
I think he just wants to turbocharge his Quirion Dryad right now. You've got to want to make that guy as big as you possibly can. He's sitting there looking at mutagenic growth. I guess he doesn't want to burn the second Vapor Snag, doesn't want to give Juza 2 more life and another token. That play makes sense.
He's gonna bash in with it anyway.
Oh yeah, of course. Probably gonna cast. Or no, I guess it's not that. He's got another Quirion Dryad. Maybe he just wants to get that on the battlefield. On the other hand, I don't think he wants to just lose access to any of his other cards.
For those of you following along at home, I will tell you that Zach Hill just leaned sideways to try to look at the side of the monitor to see Alexander Hayne's hand.
It's
something
tempting, man.
something that we all do all the time.
Still not used to these digital spaces. What I thought was a Dissipate in Hayne's hand is in fact a Talrand, so he doesn't in fact have the counter magic for the Titan. Of course, Juza doesn't know that, so he still kind of has to pay a little bit of respect to that counter magic, not just boldly tap out every turn. This Pillar of Flame is hitting. You've got to expect Hayne to cast Mutagenic Growth and save his guy. I mean, the entire deck's based around Quirion Dryad. It's got to be good for you to have a Dryad on the table for as long as possible.
Even better to have 2.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Especially when one's already a 3/3. I don't know. I mean, that play seems kind of loose to me. Like, why is Mutagenic Growth in your deck if not to save your cards from burn spells? You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, his Huntmaster is never going to be big enough to block your Dryad. I don't think you're planning on killing Titans with your Dryad, although maybe that is your plan, but you've got Vapor Snag in your hand, so you don't really have to worry about that. I think you want to have your Titan on the board and kill him before he starts casting all of his giant spells. I don't like that play.
Juza gets in for 2 with the Huntmaster, then cast another sphere. She's got 3 spheres out there.
Has 3 spheres. The Cavern is naming human, not giant, so Hayne could, if he had counter spells, put a lot of pressure on. As it happens, he's got Vapor Snag, Snapcaster Mage, Mutagenic Growth. Not going to really have a whole lot to do against Juza's Titans.
Sure.
Casting Snapcaster Mage and Gitaxian Probe to give his Dryad +2/+2. Yeah, if he just keeps his other Dryad alive, he's attacking for 8 points of damage this turn.
Which is just under half of Juza's life total.
Right, and he's got big enough Quirion Dryads that he doesn't have to care very much about the Titan that Juza's going to cast. As it is, he only has 1 threat. I mean, he's still not in a bad position, but I think you would just want to have a 4/4 Quirion Dryad on the table.
So he Thought Scours himself, ends up milling away a Mana Leak and a Negate.
Right, so he is tapped out. So Juza knows that he's going to be able to resolve a Titan this turn. The question is whether it's going to matter. I mean, I think you have to go, I don't know. I mean, if you get Primeval Titan, you're getting 2 lands and setting yourself up for a really big turn next turn, but you're also taking a lot of damage to Vapor Snag. I think you want to cast Inferno Titan and get that Snapcaster Mage off the table, as well as dealing 2 additional damage to Hayne.
That's the math that Juza is going through right now. That's going to cost him one of his spheres, right?
It's going to make him use it. He did draw a mountain, so he's going to be able to not have to use 2 counters if what he's going for is Inferno Titan. It's possible he just goes Primeval Titan and gets 2 Glimmer Post and gains a zillion life. And then you just don't have to care about the Snapcaster Mage. That's probably a safer play. That way, if they Vapor Snag you, you can just cast Primeval Titan 1 more time, gain 4 life off the final Glimmer Post, and just have a lot of leeway to work with.
So, Martin Juza going through some math right now. He's kicked back. There's a really good shot of him in deep repose, as it were. He's at 11. Alexander Hayne's at 14. So the life totals are mattering in this game kind of right now. He knows the kind of deck that Haynes plays, so he can't be, he sort of can't play too wildly. He's got to figure out what's going to get him there right now. Looks like he's going to play the Inferno Titan.
Is that true? I can't really tell.
He dropped the mountain, so that was my assumption. There we go.
Okay.
Inferno
yeah,
Titan.
And that's exactly what's happening.
1 to the Snapcaster and 2 to Hayne's head, so that takes Hayne down to 12.
Yeah, the 2 to Hayne's head matters a lot too. He's dealing damage in increments of 2. He forces Hayne to show him an answer. He just dies. And I don't think he wanted to.
I mean, Vapor Snag is a lot less useful against Inferno Titan.
Yeah, and he's got
against some creatures.
He's got the Inkmoth Nexus back to block, so he doesn't have to trade his Inferno Titan for the Quirion Dryad. Also gets to remove one of the counters from the Dryad, cutely enough. Hayne's got to be thinking he's just going to move in on Vapor Snag this turn. Juza only at 11 life. So there are ways in which Hayne wins this combat. Each Vapor Snag in effect deals 2 damage. So if all he does is cast Vapor Snag, it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and he's 1 short by removing both of Yuza's blockers. He does, however, have mutagenic growth. So it's possible that he just ends it right here.
Okay.
Although I guess he casts Talrand, doesn't have double Vapor Snag, which is what he would need to actually just end the game against Yuza right now. Yuza activates, successfully blocks.
I think the issue here, though, is doesn't Inferno Titan just kill the Talrand, and he swings in for 9?
Well, Talrand, he's got the mutagenic growth, so he can cast mutagenic growth, trigger Talrand, making a Drake.
Right. Okay.
Possibly could kill the Inferno Titan if nothing crazy happens. He has 6 power worth of guys. Obviously, Yuza has a Primeval Titan, which Hayne doesn't know about. He also has a Whip Flare, which could just get Talrand off the table, but he obviously doesn't want to trade away his Huntmaster of the Fells. He does have the mutagenic growth. This is making a Drake. This is a big play.
In the middle of all this excitement, Dennis Rashid has come back to take game 2 from PV, so they're tied at 1-1.
All right, and yeah, he's blocking with a 4/4 Talrand and the 2/2 Drake, like we talked about. Took 1 damage from the Inferno Titan. It's going to take an additional 2 damage from Huntmaster of the Fells. But getting the Inferno Titan off the table is a big deal right now. I mean, he just traded a 4-mana card, in essence, and a free spell for one of the biggest threats in Yuza's deck.
And we see he has another Talrand in his hand.
Right. So the second legend isn't doing him a lot of good anyway. Yuza thinking about something right now. He doesn't have anything he can do at instant speed, so I think he's just kind of contemplating what he wants to do next.
Another result in from the field as Martin Juza thinks here. Marco Orsini Jones has won his match against John Paul Kelly 2-0. So that combat resolved.
All right, and Yuza very clearly now going to be casting Primeval Titan. I think you just want to get to Glimmer Post again, as we said, gain 5 life, put yourself out of range. Maybe he just wants to set up the Wolfrun Inkmoth Nexus combo. Maybe you get some combination like Glimmer Post and Inkmoth. He's got a lot of options.
Wolfrun.
Right,
I mean, he's at 11. Hayne's at 5.
Cards? 3.
Yeah, no, that's true. Wolfrun
Hayne's got to cast a lot of spells.
If obviously an attacker gets through. Now, it's hard to do that against a Delver deck, but certainly, yeah. I mean, you can always just be aggressive, try to kill your opponent. Big choice for Yuza, though. Choosing wrong here could be the game. I mean, we've been talking a lot about Yuza's side of the board. Hayne does have a 6/6 Quirion Dryad, 3 cards in hand, and 4 potential mana. So, it's not as though Yuza's just in the clear just yet.
Yeah, but I mean, I agree. But he's going to have to tick that Dryad up 5 times to make it lethal.
Oh yeah, for sure. Although again, Vapor Snag gets him 2 points
of those,
there. Right. It's a matter of degrees for sure. I think he just maybe he just what he wants to do is see if Yuza doesn't get Kessig Wolfrun. Yep. It's possible he could just not die, try and untap with Talrand, keep the Dryad back on defense. Wolfrun, if he gets it, would make that very, very, very much harder, clearly. But, 11's only so much life. I think if it were me, I'd get 1 Wolfrun and 1 Glimmer Post. Get back up to 13, make it less likely that something crazy could happen. You die on 1 attack. You still threaten the lethal counterattack the next turn. Or make him keep his Dryad back on defense, obviously, which is a huge part of Hayne's game plan. Yeah, precisely. Still, obviously, a huge decision for Yuza. Doesn't want to mess it up. It looks like he's, thought he made a decision. Yeah, Inkmoth Nexus, Kessig Wolfrun. That's what the deck's named after.
Well, so he's pretty sure that he isn't going to die this turn.
Right. which is a reasonable assumption. I mean, the other thing about having Inkmon Nexus is that usually you just attack with it in concert with Wolf Run, but it also blocks Quirion Dryad for an entire turn. So it does some work. Looks like Hayne has a 5th land in the island. He's got Talrand, he has Vapor Snag, and he has yet another Quirion Dryad. It's one downside of the Dryads. They are not that awesome this late in the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, the idea is the early pressure.
1 card, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And the tempo that the deck can bring.
Oh, of course.
With the Vapor Snags and the counter magic.
I mean, I think you, let's see, if you Vapor Snag, if you play the island, play Talrand, Vapor Snag, Primeval Titan, you have 4 points of toughness to block Huntmaster. Huntmaster could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Huntmaster could be 7, so he could attack for, he could get 4 points through. So I don't think Hayne would die on the counterattack if he simply snags, plays Talrand and then snags Primeval Titan. Possibly he doesn't even need to snag Primeval Titan, just attacks and offers the chump block. And then waits, obviously, for the counterattack to Vapor Snag.
Yeah, that's obviously the thought process he's going through right now. Do I bounce it and get through now for these 7? It's got 6 counters on it or 5?
I think it has 6 counters on it.
So if he Vapor Snagged, it would be 8 damage. Take Martin Juza at 3.
Right. I mean, that like growing the Quirion Dryad by 1 is like the reason you do it pre-combat. Otherwise, I think you just attack for 7, get him down to 4, and you know, because if you chump blocks with Primeval Titan, you're in good shape. The thing is, every single point of damage matters, because if that Titan attacks or gets recast, he has to think about 5 more life coming from Glimmer Post number 2 and 3. So Hayne's having to think ahead several turns right now. But what he might be trying to do is blow out a potential Wolf Run activation and maybe get to kill the Huntmaster or one of the other creatures with a Drake on the attack. Now, he didn't attack with Quirion Dryad, which is intriguing to me. I mean, I feel like with using 11 life, you're going to want to get in. I mean, he's got to respect the Kessig Wolf Run for sure. I completely understand that. But, I mean, every point of life is vital at this juncture.
Yeah, I think he's...
Maybe he wanted to keep it back on defense so Juza doesn't get 2 more lands. I mean, I certainly understand that. But again, Wolf Run makes that complicated. Now, a line of play is he makes Juza attack because he wants to get 2 lands, activates Kessig Wolf Run trying to kill the Quirion Dryad, and then Hayne blows him out with Vapor Snag, getting Titan off the table, making his Dryad bigger, and tapping Juza out for the turn because of the attempt to use Kessig Wolf Run. And that might be exactly what's about to happen.
Well, he's got to, but he's also got to make sure that users can't recast, simply just recast Primeval Titan after he bounces.
Well, and I don't think he can if he has to activate Wolf Run. Right, if he has to use Wolf Run for 1 blocking with Quirion Dryad, Juza would have to activate Kessig Wolf Run unless he just plans on getting his Titan eaten. And that's, I think, exactly what's happening now. I mean, I've heard people say that Wolf Run is just a, you know, oh, whatever, you just cast a ramp spell, you cast a Solemn, you cast a Titan, the game ends. It's absolutely not how I describe this game. This is one of the most intricate matches of Magic I've seen in a very, very long time.
Alexander Hayne deep in the tank now, figuring out what he's going to do.
Right.
He obviously can't do nothing.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to say no blocks and just get eaten right here. I mean, the thing is, like, you're in a little bit of a staring contest between Kessig Wolf Run and your own Vapor Snag. You kind of have to just see who bites first. If it was me, I'd just block the Well, yeah, I think I'd block the Primeval Titan and see what happens. If he uses Kessig Wolf Run on Huntmaster of the Fells, you just Vapor Snag the Huntmaster of the Fells. You have to expect that he's going to use it on Titan, in which case you can just blow his Titan out, and all right, whatever. You took 2 damage, you go to 3, you untap, you have a Drake, you have a Talaran. I guess he just really respects the Huntmaster, though, and is willing to block with Talaran and only get 1 Drake out of it. It's still not bad. 2 UU, destroy target, Huntmaster of the Fells, make it 2/2. That's, you know, I've seen worse Magic cards for sure.
Beast within the Dryad.
Wow.
That's a thing.
That is a devastating thing against a Primeval Titan that has Trample right now.
Okay.
All right, yeah, just lets that happen. Obviously, resetting the Dryad is huge. He does need to get a 3/3 Beast. Yeah, that is part of the upside of
Snag. Wow, you do have
Beast
this
within.
hand?
Yuza clearly startled by that Vapor Snag.
This is in my hand.
Yuza trying to puzzle through what's going to happen next. Kind of awkward right now. It doesn't necessarily want to spend a Sphere of the Suns just to deal some extra damage with Huntmaster. Not really a token deck on Hayne's side of the table, but he's got a green token and a blue token ready to mount an offense. Still, things are basically looking good for Yuza, I think, right here. He's going to drop Hayne to some amount of life. He's got a Titan in his hand. He's got a Whip Flare for the Drake if that's what he wants to do.
It looks like he's just willing to trade there.
Can understand that. Probably just going to activate or cast Whip Flare, get rid of the 2/2, unless he was trying to bait Hayne's Dryads out onto the table as well. Again, just might not want to spend a Sphere of the Suns. Totally understand that.
And he's back up to 16.
Yep.
Hayne still ends the turn at 5.
Hayne draws. Hard to see. He's going to attack. Yuzo didn't spend mana last turn specifically in order to
14.
block the Beast, making it a 2/2, turning on his Whip Flare, really making them into a Wrath of God for 2 mana. So that explains why he didn't opt to deal any extra points of damage.
Sure.
Hayne right now with Dryad playing right into Yuza's Whip Flare. Yeah, it just can't do it fast enough, you see, for that side of the table. And Yuza has more than enough mana left over to cast Primeval Titan. He's got to expect that this is the game right here. And he's thinking about it, you know,
Well,
what do I do?
Run into Mana Leak.
Sure.
Yep. Go.
All right, yeah, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's not running into another counterspell. Does give Hayne another turn to draw a counterspell, but he's only got 1 Dissipate as a hard counter in his deck. All right, yeah, with the untap, it's looking pretty bad for Hayne right here.
Now free and clear into the prime time.
Right. Does need to tap 2 green mana for that Primeval Titan now, which he does. You gotta expect him to get Inkmoth Nexus at least. Maybe both of his Inkmoths are in his graveyard.
Well, there's prime time. He is bona fide.
How long have you been wanting to say that, Sheldon?
A month.
All right, gets the last Glimmer Post. No more utility lands that he thinks are relevant. He's already got a Kessig.
It'll be hard to burn you out.
So he gets Copperline Gorge. Copperline Gorge, of course, being the worst land to top deck at this stage of the game. So you just want to get them out of your deck.
We hear from the field that Dennis Rashid has taken Game 3 from PV, so he wins that match 2-1.
All right, now Huntmaster of the Fells coming down. He doesn't care about playing around Mana Leak because he has the Cavern of Souls naming human from way earlier in the game. And Hayne, there aren't answers in this deck to this position. This is just going to be. I expect to see an extended hand anytime now.
Looking really strong for Martin Juza.
Well, I don't think I have any outs, but...
And Yuza, after taking those beats, back up to a healthy 20 life.
Thought Scour.
Snapcaster Thought Scour, desperately digging something. Like he said, doesn't even think there's an answer. Probably not going to find anything. Has another Scour, but yeah, I mean, it's just elementary at this point. It's just casting spells.
Thought Scour me.
And that's a Gitaxian probe. I mean, he's sort of obliging himself to pretend to stay alive at this point. But there's just really not a whole lot there. And he extends the hand. Martin Juza takes the round.
So, more exciting Magic. I mean, games one and games two were a little lopsided.
Yeah.
This one was a Magic. This was a Magic game.
This was a really good game of Magic. Like I said, I think if he keeps the second Dryad alive, it's okay. Let's see what they're talking about.
Like pod decks and stuff. And Geist, I think.
They're talking a little bit about the strategy of this deck versus that deck,
right?
Game two,
and how to take things.
Definitely done something. I for sure screwed up game two.
And
like that game, I feel like
that's pretty much it from round 7 here in the booth. We are headed back to Studio B with who I'm pretty sure is Richard Hagon. So this is Sheldon Menery for Zach Hill saying thanks for watching all the action. We will see you tomorrow from the booth. Right now, Richard Hagon.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the news desk. Here we are, Rich Hagan, Brian David Marshall. He's looking at all the results coming in, and so many teams could make it in. Just to give you a guide, I bumped into Richard Bland, who won his last round of England. Marco Orsini-Jones also won. They came into this round in 50th place, 5-0, needing to leapfrog 18 teams to make it in. And yet, they were still live coming into the last round. So the number of teams that are scrapping for that top 32 is incredible. I can promise you this, at the end of this show, we will show you all 8 pools for tomorrow in order. So you will see the 1 to 32 seeds. And BDM, while we wait to see who populates those 32, let's talk a little bit again, because it's a new format, a new tournament. This is the end of part 2 of 5. We began with 3 rounds of Magic 13 draft, followed it up with 4 rounds of standard individual play. These 32 teams, what will they be made up of in the morning?
So at the end of individual play, we're going to look at each team. We're going to throw away the low point total on each team. We're going to take the scores of the 3 highest finishing players, combine them, and look at those top 32 teams.
Right.
And then we're going to create 4 team pools of 1, 16, 17, 32.
And so on, where it's all equal.
And then their players are going to play 3 rounds of pooled play, team sealed to start.
Right.
And at the end of that, we're going to go from 32 teams down to 16 teams with 2 teams from each pool advancing. So the standings are still relevant for tiebreakers, it's still relevant for seeding, but if you're in a pool, you can go 3-0, you can go 2-1, you can advance wherever you are in the standings.
Sure. Everyone starts at 0-0. It's just some 0-0s are more equal than others.
Yes. If there's 3 teams, it's quite possible that we're going to have pools with 3 teams at 2-1. And if you're the 32nd place team, you go 2-1 and 2 other teams go 2-1, guess what? You're not playing the 4th round of day 2.
Yeah, I guess the key thing to bear in mind is that within each pool of 4, if you are the number 4 seed in your pool, only 3-0 is guaranteed to make you in. If you are the number 1 seed in your pool, 2-1 is guaranteed to put you through, because there can't be 2 teams above you with 2-1. Okay, so that's how that works. We go to 32 teams. We play 3 rounds of team sealed. Tomorrow morning, we will take you through in delicious detail how team sealed works, because it's a wonderfully complicated format with some amazing decision trees.
So, there's a bunch of press coming around here. If they're shooting video, and I was talking to Richard Castle, someone you've worked with
from Gathering Magic,
from Gathering Magic, and he's like, "Oh, I'm looking for footage tomorrow." I'm like, "Let me tell you something. If you want some priceless footage tomorrow, go shoot film of players trying to figure out how to build their team.
With 10 minutes to go.
10 minutes. You're going to see people just like,
I want the flint tooth ball. Give me the flint tooth ball. Yeah. It's gonna be an amazing start to day 2. Don't you dare miss it. Now, after those 3, that is the end of limited. It is also the end of 16 of the 32 teams.
Yeah.
We will then reseed based on records. If you go 3-0 in the first set, that is worth a lot more than getting in as 2-1. So the seeds will change round. Then we'll be down to 16. What formats will those 16 remaining teams play?
So they're going to play team constructed in a format that if you've ever followed the World Championships and World Team competitions, can seem very familiar to you. Each player on the team is going to have a seat. There'll be a block constructed player, Innistrad, Avacyn Restored, block constructed. There will be a standard player, and there will be a modern player. So, and then each team is responsible. They do not have to play the same standard deck that they played in the standard portion. They can watch some of the deck techs we've done today and go, oh, this is a nice deck. I think I'll build that. And then the teams will sit down very similar to Team Sealed. 3 players play 3 players. The first team to secure best 2 out of 3 matches will win the team match.
Okay. 16 teams then become 8 teams, and the 8 teams will come back on Sunday, and that is going to be really straightforward, just what you would expect, knockout. Right. Quarterfinals, semifinals, and final.
Well,
but
it's almost like we're bracketed from the start tomorrow, right? Yeah. We have this 32-team bracket that goes down to a 16-team bracket that goes down to an 8-team bracket that culminates in a World Magic Cup champion.
And all the way along, though, in that top 8, if you're the #1 seed, thank you very much, I'll play first. And again, and again, and again, and again. Seeding is huge here at the World Magic Cup. But something behind the World Magic Cup is this idea of a national champion and then 3 other players that come along for the ride. Or are they carrying the national champion? Well, we decided to delve a little bit behind the numbers in a feature we've called heavy lifting. And we want to show you basically what percentage of experience of the whole team is represented by the national champion. So we haven't done this for all 71, but just to give you a guide, let's take a look at some of the nations. Now, right down at the bottom, you get somewhere like Malaysia. Chi Chung Hugh, he is their national champion, but he only has 8% of their lifetime pro points because he's got Terry So on his team with 155 of his own. So that's a real outlier. Very few teams are like that. Let's go a little bit higher. Let's take you in to the 20s. This is what you want. You want to see, look at Vincent Lemoine there. He represents basically a quarter of Belgium's lifetime pro points. That's because he's got 3 fantastic teammates, although that said, it hasn't necessarily served them well. They were in deep trouble coming into this last round. Andy Morrison, again, you see from Scotland, round about a quarter of the lifetime pro points, his team very solid, and Scotland been in the top 10 throughout the day. Let's move on as we head up into the 30s. You get up to Alexander Hayne, the 40s, Gregor Petric-Maritic of Croatia there. He's got almost half the pro points. And interestingly, Robert Jerkovic shows you how experienced he is from the Czech Republic. He has almost half their pro points, despite the fact that they have 17 world team appearances between the 4 of them. He is a really, really underrated player and a terrific advert for that part of the world. Let's move on, and now we're starting to get towards the players on our next slide who are heading over the halfway mark. Let's see who we've got. Kibler, well, he's got 52%. Of course, Luis Scott Vargas has got pretty much the other 48%. Andres Nordahl, 55%. Jeremy Neiman, they've had a difficult day. The Australians, 58% of the lifetime pro points for the Niemanizer. Let's move on. Into the 60s we go. And now Andreas Gatz, Switzerland have been doing very well. They are up there and in contention. 17th place coming into this last round. And then you see Thomas Holtzinger of Austria. They are nicely placed. They were in 11th coming into the last round. Yuya Watanabe, well, poor old Japan, you've got to say, maybe that taxi ride from hell has made a difference because they have not delivered on the World Magic Cup stage. They mathematically may still sneak in, maybe, but I think it requires an incredible run of coincidence and good play. Richard Bland heading towards 70%. Estrati, 70% for the Italians. Now, congratulations to Joel Calafel because he certainly has got Spain into the mix. They're in the top dozen as we head into this last round. Let's move on. Now we're getting towards the people who are really doing the heavy lifting for their country. The top half dozen or so. Jelger Wiegersma, the Hall of Famer from the Netherlands. He has with him Roy Over, Bart van Etten, and Floris de Haan. You know what? They've got 31 lifetime pro points between them, which is perfectly fine and more than several countries here at the World Magic Cup. But with 360, Jelger's doing some heavy lifting. Let's move on. Who has even more to say? Well, no surprise here, because Rafael Levy has in fact been playing Magic at organized play since before Richard Garfield invented the game. And that's why he's played in 79 Pro Tours, 95% of the French effort. But congratulations go to Stéphane Soubrier, Damien Masse, and Johan Dudagnon, because coming into this last round, they were tied for 5th and pretty much guaranteed to be seeing day 2 action. So Rafael Levy, again, Hall of Fame, maybe helping the team out. Let's go same rank, 95%. It's Paulo Vitor Dama de Rosa of Brazil. Now, I believe, Brian David Marshall, that Paulo lost this round. I believe that Dennis Rashid beat him by 2-1 in the last feature match there.
Rashid 2-1 over Paulo.
Okay, so Brazil are not certain to be in. They've had a very, very good start to the day, but they were tied in 18th, but that goes right the way down, the 33 pointers, to Bolivia on 32. So by no means certain that Brazil will see play. We said coming in, big storyline, could Paulo bring his team of 3? Could he do the heavy lifting? The jury's still out, but once you make it to day 2, all bets are off. You get to start again in essentially knockout play, as Brian says. Let's take you still a couple more, even more on the shoulders of Martin Juza. 98% of the lifetime pro points for the Czech Republic team belong to Martin Juza. And you look, and again, they don't have there are a lot of good players for the Czech Republic team. You think of Lukas Blahan, you think of Lukas Jaklowski, who didn't make it. They had a lot of near misses in their WMCQs, lots of top 8s between the big names, but couldn't quite get it done. So Thomas Vanek, Pavel Seska, and Jakub Vota trying to get through the door into day 2. And right now, the Czech Republic, 36th place coming in.
But we just saw Martin Juza win his match against Alexander Hayne.
So that's a
big deal.
But there is one more name to give you, above Martin Juza on 98%. So I'll ask you, Brian David Marshall, there we go. Who would have thought that Bernd Brindamul of Germany, one of the historic powerhouses of the game, he aces the competition. 100% of the lifetime pro points belong to Bernd Brindamul. And he's got plenty. He's got 43 lifetime pro points.
Right.
So, you know, it's not like he has 5.
Keep in mind that if you put Bernd Brindamul on the same team with Jelger Wiegersma, Jelger would still have 85% of the pro points on his team.
That's true. That's fantastic. All right, so that just gives you a guide to how, right the way from all the parts of the world, you get some national champions who, you know, they have these great people behind them, Hall of Famers, people like Terry So, huge amount of experience. He was an invitational winner, of course.
Sure.
Terry So with the Rakdos Orgamage.
Rakdos Orgamage.
One of those invitational cards one doesn't always remember, to be fair. It wasn't a massive hit, but Terry's a good guy. So that is sort of the range of the national champions. But now we're closing in. Results are coming in at BDM. Just give us some sort of sense of where things are heading in this last round.
So we saw Wiegersma win over Vallis 2-0. Rashid 2-1 over Paulo. We saw Juza beat Alexander Hayne in three games. Petrik Maratek defeated Robert Jerkovic 2-1.
Now that is a real Eastern European clash. You've got the Croatian against the Slovak Republic.
Right.
That's a really big deal. And it maybe sort of brings the Slovak Republics slightly back to the pack.
Sure, but they're in first place coming into this round.
They're still in good shape, but the difference between first seed and, let's say, 7th seed,
right? Absolutely.
It does make a difference.
Kuo from Taiwan defeated Calafel of Spain 2-0.
Yeah, I think Spain have done very nicely for themselves, currently in 12th coming into this round, and I see them hopefully moving forward.
While Luis Scott Vargas hasn't done a lot of winning, Alex Benek has really, you know, picked up a lot of that slack, and he won 2-1 over Dumitru from Romania, and I'm going to be a little... I'm going to be a little sad if Romania doesn't make day two.
Okay, remind people of the deal with Romania, what the story is.
They've never had a lot of success at World Team Competition.
Yep.
And talking to one of the Romanian players, he just said, look, it would just be a dream to get top 16, to make day 2, to keep playing, to show people at home that you know there's improvement, that we're succeeding. And, I mean, it was something they were really passionate about, and I could even tell. I talked to him two rounds to go in the individual competition, and he was nervous. You know, they were in 20th place, and you could tell, like, he was like, oh, we're close. We can do it. We just got to win a couple more.
Yeah. Now, I can tell you, on the plus side for Romania, I can tell you that Pavel Radu won his match. So they have 3 more. They were in 29th coming into this last round. So 1-1. And something that we see all the time in team competition, even though, theoretically, you have 4 players and 4 players on the other team, so you could all win your 4, they could all lose their 4. Actually putting distance between teams is very, very tough. It's so hard for 3 in this case, because the 4th is already not counting in most instances. To get 3 to win whilst 3 opponents all lose is very tough. So if you can just 2-1 your last round, you're going to be safe. So I think Romania are relying on one last round from Sebastian Mahu. I think that could be the result that gives them either day 2 or go home.
I've got my fingers crossed for them.
Absolutely.
Murray from Scotland defeated Papadopoulos from Greece 2-0.
Right.
So Scotland has just
they're surely
stayed the course. I mean, that is certainly an unexpected team. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you know more about them.
Well, no. I mean, the thing is, Scotland had a team that basically, if you were going to have a team of national selectors who just said, let's not bother with qualifiers, let's pick the team. It is basically true to say that maybe with the exception of 1 or 2 players, Graham McIntyre is someone who wanted desperately to qualify and came very, very close, lost in one of the finals. I think he lost to Chris Davey, in fact. But apart from Graham, this is pretty much the 4 people you would say, off you go, boys, you're going to represent.
When you talk about teams in the UK, it's like, it seems almost bizarre, right? Like in the United States, we know our American players, you know, maybe we know some of the Canadian players, but it's really like being a New York player and knowing the Boston players and knowing the Maryland players who go to all the PTQs and GPs together.
I think the thing that does work there is that, that both the Scots and the Irish are fantastic travellers and ambassadors for the community. And so at the Manchester PTQ, for example, which is in the northwest of England, the Scots will come. The Irish will come. There's like this mini nationals every PTQ season.
This is like the New York PTQ.
Yeah.
Boston, Maryland.
Talking of Boston, by the way, I was talking with Steve Guillaume while simultaneously speaking in my native Icelandic to one of the Iceland players, and we were explaining that, you know, Iceland is in fact the smallest country here of the 71. You have China, 1.3 billion. And you have Iceland, 300,000.
Wow.
At which point Steve Guillaume says, wait, 300,000 people? That's less than Boston. Can we have a team next time? I said, no, I don't think that's how the world Magic Cup
Brooklyn
works.
wants a team too then.
Haven't they just got one?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. All right.
Cantillana from the Philippines defeated Castillo from Uruguay.
He's done well, Cantillana, by the way.
Yeah, and in the Philippines we've seen them you know, kind of bubbling up in the standings and, kind of they're in the mix.
Led by Gerald Kamanga. I mean, they, again, tied in that sort of top dozen or so, 36 points. They hopefully will be safe and in. I'd like to see that.
Varula from Guatemala defeated Rosic. Barkley from Scotland, we got another winner from Scotland.
Okay.
He defeated Haraldson from Israel.
Right.
Peru, we got
Iceland. That's Iceland, Haraldson.
Oh, that's Iceland. I'm sorry.
ISL.
Yeah. Peru's got another win. They defeated Rafael Levy 2-1. So now, Peru, that is an amazing story.
So the deal here, again, just in case you were unaware, we were staggered, quite frankly, that with 71 teams invited to this event, 71 teams managed to walk, swim, run,
70.75 teams.
Pretty much. The deal was that if you could bring 3 players, you were allowed to play, and if you couldn't field a 4th, well, okay, it means that all 3 players count. It's a bit like show jumping at the Olympics, for example, where you can discard your last score, but if one of the horses is lame, you're stuck with the 3 that you have. So Peru, huge handicap, not being able to give away any of their scores, but all 3 of them. Jimmy,
without
Sam,
a net is what it said below the crawl.
That's right. And Jimmy Sam, Sergio Sanabio, and Gabriela Ruiz.
So Sam won his match.
That's right.
Against Rafael Levy.
That's, I mean, I don't know whether people just raise their game against Raf, because, I mean, obviously Raf is still coming into this round.
Right.
You know, he was at 5-1,
right.
But now 5-2.
We're getting like matches in fast and furious here.
Just give them out.
Rodriguez from the Dominican Republic defeated Durao from Luxembourg 2-1. I'm not sure where they are and things. Oliver Ox of Estonia defeated McLeod from Wales.
Yeah, Wales have not had the best time.
Okay.
It's fair to say, they were 61st.
The United States, Canada tied coming into this round.
Joint 3rd place.
Panaccio from the United States just defeated Jamie Blanchette from Canada 2-1.
Now,
so that's kind of a make some room, put some distance between us.
So
kind of finish.
Let's just come right out and say, when we prepped for this event, we even did that feature. 2 + 2 equals what? And we said, Sunao and Nakai, they had to deliver for Japan. We said Binnick and Panaccio. Remember that Alex Binnick defeated Sam Black in the final of his WNCQ, and there was, not be caught here,
a national sigh.
Much weeping and grinding of teeth.
A national sigh. Everyone was like, no.
So let's just take a moment to say, Alex Binnick, day 1, 6-1. Lifetime experience, 1 Pro Tour. Joe Panaccio, 0 lifetime pro points, never played at a Pro Tour level event, 6-1.
Great job, guys. Great job.
Straight up, enough respect. Brilliant.
We got another loss for Slovakia.
Okay.
Dudognon from France.
Yep. One of the Musketeers.
Defeated Oro from Slovakia.
Oh no, that's Slovenia.
Slovenia
again. Oro is part
Slovenia.
of the team with Dola.
There we go.
Yeah.
Nikolai Potovin of Belarus.
Yep.
He defeated Flock of Slovakia. So we do have a Slovakian match there.
Okay, just tell me that again.
Potovin of Belarus.
Yes.
Defeated Ivan Flock from Slovakia.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct.
There we go.
So the Slovak Republic.
And I think that's all the results we have right now.
Okay, so a voice in my ear tells me that pretty much all the Magic playing has been done.
Oh boy, no, it's not. It is absolutely not done.
In the World Magic Cup
for
day 1.
Okay, because I got to tell you, watching these guys play all day, I just want to go draft. I want to play with our Team Seal deck some more.
Yes.
I just, is there something wrong with us? That we just it's a hard work. We put in a long day here. And I just want to all right, let's just grab some pizza and play Magic.
Always.
Yeah.
That's absolutely the plan.
Okay.
Well,
so you're saying there's nothing wrong with us?
There's nothing wrong with me.
Oh, okay.
I can't. Well, I could speak for you, but not on air. Yeah, we're roommates. It's fine. Let's move on. It looks like, as I say, all the Magic results are in. And what's happening now backstage is that we are looking at the results coming in, and we're going to build for you the 4 pools. And I can see that they're hanging on your every word here, Brian and Marshall. They're just stuck looking at your lovely smiling face there. And I imagine that that's because backstage there are 900 little elves running around trying to deliver what's going on with the result. Yeah,
you want to lean in?
Hello. Yes, there we are. There we are. It was stuck on the 1 shot. Oh, fantastic. All right. Assume for a moment, let's talk about some of the surprises. I don't want to jinx anyone.
Sure.
But just again, Croatia. I was really hoping, I kept asking at Grand Prix in the months leading up to this event, I kept asking people who were going to be coming here. And I really wanted to hear them say, yes, we have a plan for standard, we have a gamble plan. We propose to do a thing that will see us blaze a trail through the field or see us die in a hail of horror. Yeah. And everyone said, oh, I think I'll probably play some Delver. And,
I'll play Delver.
There might be some zombies.
Maybe Pod.
But it's not written. Maybe Pod. This isn't the time to get cute, was the answer I got back time and time and time again.
Croatia got cute all over people.
Yeah. And you know, it's one of those hiding in plain sight things, because it wasn't quite like Jacob Van Lunen and Chris Lackman in 2007, where the slivers were hiding in plain sight in boosters. Let's be honest, if you've heard of Brian Kibler, which most of us have, you know about Infect. You know that Infect's a deck in Standard and can be. But this was a field where running that just wasn't acceptable to most people.
It's kind of like, oh, I go to an event every week. I can take a week off and play a goofy deck. I can play the Infect deck, right? That's kind of like the way people have talked about it. But the Croatian team is playing mono green Infect. They're playing with Cathedral of War, Wild Defiance, and they are just crushing people. Yeah, it's phenomenal. We have, I believe, multiple players on the team went 4-0 with it.
Yeah,
and the one player who didn't play it, he didn't do so well. His score's getting dropped. He didn't win any draft matches either, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And in fact, that has worked out. Yeah. How about this? Gregor Petric-Maritic, the #1 player of all time. Tony Portolan is their #2 of all time on lifetime pro points, and Stepan Sucic is their #3. Sulicic, rather. And so the best 3 players that Croatia have ever had have delivered one of the best days of Magic Croatia have ever had. And I just cannot take my hat off enough to them. Let's move a little bit further down. We hope that Peru are in. I think
it seems kind of hard for them to miss. We know they have at least. We know they're at least at 42 points.
Yeah.
We know we saw at least 1 win come across our crawl. I don't know.
Do you know what? We have the 32 seeds for day 2 of the World Magic Cup. Let us leave our shining and lovely faces and let us show you a blank screen. Are you ready? Are you set?
Go.
Go. Pool 1, your #1 seed for the World Magic Cup Day 2 is Croatia. It is Gregor Petric-Maritic, Tony Portolan, and Stepan Sucic. Goran Elez not making it in. Your 16 seed is Ukraine. 17, Singapore. That means Chapman Sim is in.
Go team coverage.
And your 32nd seed will be Malaysia. So that will be Pool 1, and they will play against each other tomorrow morning in Team Sealed play. So if you're Malaysia and you already have a dossier on the Team Sealed preferences of Singapore, Ukraine, and Croatia, that's what you need to be thinking about.
Is Terry So? I mean, even if Terry So was eliminated, I don't know which player in Malaysia, but Terry So, this is, someone who's played some Team Sealed in his day as well. So he might know a thing or two going into tomorrow.
Let us show you Pool 2 for Day 2. Here it comes. In second place, slipping back after a fairly difficult last round, the Slovak Republic. 15th seed, yay! Peru made it in. Now, I think Poland can advance from that group. I have a lot of time for the Polish team. Tomek Pedrakowski, Mateusz Kopecz.
Absolutely.
I think they look very strong in that group, and Peru and the Dominican Republic have got their work cut out.
Can we just take a moment? I know we have a lot of fans in the Dominican Republic.
We do.
And, this has got to be a big day for them getting through to Day 2 here.
Yep, Ronald Rodriguez, Jane Castellanos, Pedro Pabatera, Manuel Parra also in that team. Don't know who's the 4th member of that going into tomorrow.
Good job, guys, and do some good work tomorrow.
Absolutely. Pool 3 of 8 coming right up. Here it comes. Pool 3 sees the 3rd seed coming in, the United States. A big favorite in that group, but look at who they face. The 19th seed, Paula Vita, Dama de Rosa, and friends. They tested together, and tomorrow they will go head-to-head. Wow! Also in that pool, the Estonians, Oliver Ox, Hannes Karem and co. 30th seed, Greece have made it in. Well done to them. Fondas Papadatos, Panagiotis Papadopoulos, Vangelis Pelikanos, and Antonis Fissas were the 4 Greek team members. BDM, that Pool 3 looks stonking.
The Brazil-United States Team Sealed match is going to be epic.
Appointment to view.
Yes. You know that those teams are going to build the best decks. You know they're going to have the information analyzed correctly, and you're going to see optimal decks. They've got Coach LSV on the United States side.
You know they were planning on testing Team Sealed together tonight.
I know.
I wonder if they still will.
Not sure, you got to play 3 rounds. You got to play all 3 teams. Maybe you do.
And hope the 2 of them advance.
Yeah.
Let's move to Pool 4. Who is the number 4 seed? It is Taiwan, Su Qingguo, Tung Yi Cheng, Yu Min Yang, and Paul Rini. That was the 4 there. Portugal, we've not really mentioned them at all, but Mauro Pereira, Marcio Carvalho, João Andrade, and Thiago Santos safely through in 13th place on 42 points. Well done to Dennis Rashid and co. The Swedes are through in 20th place. And you know, I've got to say, I think that pool of the 4 that we've seen so far is almost certainly the strongest, because the Austrians are no mugs. They made it in 29th place. They obviously had a very difficult last round. Looks like they only added 1 point to their total in the last round, but they're still in there. Ben Leitner, Gerald Leitzinger, Thomas Holtzinger, top 8 from the last Pro Tour. Thomas Angelmar looks like he's not going to be part of the team moving forward, but he'll be there to lend his support. We are halfway through. Have we shown your nation yet? Are you in? Are you out? Still people desperately hoping in England. People still desperately hoping in Japan, Australia for a miracle. Let's find out whether they're going to get one.
All right.
Let's give you Pool 5. Here we go. Who is the number 5 seed for WMC Part 2? It's Argentina. Wow.
Wow.
That is a massive deal.
They must have jumped quite a bit there in that last round.
They went from 36 to 45. All 3 of their advancements added points. So that means Nicolas de Nicola, Danilo Sendra, Matthias Leverato, those are the 3 who will be manning the decks in the morning. Norway. Now, Andreas Nordahl, the Norwegian captain, he was very lukewarm about their chances. I won't say he was dismissive of them, but he certainly didn't think, oh yeah, we're going to be great, which is kind of what they felt at Worlds.
But they're not a braggy country.
Yeah.
They're not very boastful. They tend to, you know, when we first started getting a lot of, you know, getting outside of North America for World Magic, we found that people were much more realistic about their chances than when you interviewed the American players.
Sure. All right. Now, I can tell you Slovenia there in 28th, they came in, they were in the 33rd place coming into the last round. So Andrei Delenk, Bojan Zunko, Madic Penko, Robin Dolar, the 4 of them combined to get themselves up the place they needed in 28th. And Finland, well, Finland don't have a great tradition, particularly in terms of team play as such, but you think of some of the players down the years. You think of Antti Malin, of course, an individual world champion in 2008. And I'm going to tell you, Max Scherblom, who made top 8 at the last European Grand Prix in Ghent, he's a seriously good player. And the Finns with Sami Hegfish, Scherblom, Matti Salmi, and possibly Eetu Pertila as the 4th member, who might be in. Not sure, again, how the 4th, 3rd seeds have worked out. That is Pool 5. I still think that Pool 4 is just the group of death. Let's go to Pool 6. Who have we got next? It's Pride of Scotland in 6th place. Well done, Andy Morrison. Well done, Stephen Murray. Well done, Brad Barkley and Chris Davey. We said they were among the best 4 you could possibly have sent, and they have delivered. They are top seeds in, again, a very strong-looking group, that Pool 6. Hungary, Thomas Nag led the way for them. Spain, Joel Kalafel was the national champion. And then Switzerland, led by Andreas Gans. BDM, would you want to pick 2 from 4 in Pool 6 in the morning? I mean, that's a really, really tough pool.
I mean, the bottom of that pool looks very tough to me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if Scotland and Hungary emerge at lunchtime tomorrow from that pool, they will have done some sterling work.
Yes.
Or they will have opened many Vampire Nighthawks. One of those 2 will certainly be true. Now, you're starting to sweat. There are only 2 pools left, only 8 slots for Day 2 at the World Magic Cup. Let's look at Pool 7. Here it comes. It's the Philippines. Good job, boys. It's Uruguay in 10th place. That is an outstanding performance for a nation.
And look in 23rd place there.
Yeah. Romania, they make it in, they advance from 29th back up to 23rd. Alexander Dimitriou, Sebastian Mahu, Pavel Radu, and Adrian Julian Vasily, the 4 of them, well done.
Good job, guys.
Made it in. But the big beast waiting in the wings, The waiting in the wings weakasma.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, Jelger has closing speed. You know,
Yeah.
he has found himself in that kind of like, oh, they're forgetting about me. I'm all the way back here in 26th place. I'm all the way back in 48th place, and just claws his way back up, devours the competition, and finds himself top 16, top 8. So he knows how to close that out.
It's your last chance saloon. If your name is not on this list yet, there are only 4 more slots at the Day 2 party. Let's take a look at Pool 8. It's Canada in 8th, it's France in 9th, Puerto Rico in 24th, and Bolivia, Alejandro Van Murik, happy birthday to you, in 25th place.
By the way, Mono Green, in fact, must be pretty good because that was also the deck that the Puerto Rican team was running in Standard.
Wow.
And they were very, very excited about it. And this is a huge finish for them.
Absolutely.
I have the players who missed the teams that missed on tiebreakers.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry to say that England is in 33rd place.
Really?
33rd place at the end of day 1.
Oh.
The Czech Republic in 34th place.
Wow.
Missing on tiebreakers. Serbia, China, El Salvador, Guatemala, Samuel Estradi and the Italian team sitting on the sidelines tomorrow.
Oh.
Germany and Belarus all missing the cut on tiebreakers.
Oh, England, I am so sorry. 33rd place. Oh, that is hard.
So what that means in this case, right, is these guys had their top 3 players.
Yep.
On all of these teams were tied with the 32nd place team.
Okay.
I guess that was 37 points we saw was the minimum you needed.
All right.
They all had 37 points, and that means that their
4th place, their 4th team member was
Yes.
the first tiebreak.
yes.
If they were still tied, where did it go then?
top 3 pro points.
So the first 3 players,
Right.
their pro points. If
Then
it was,
the 4th player's pro points.
Okay.
And then a duel with swords.
I thought it was the number of syllables in name and, which obviously is always won by the Thailand national team.
But it's kind of heartbreaking, right? Like you're the 4th player on the team, and you're like, well, I'm not doing really well, but at least my score is not going to count. And now you're like, oh no, if I'd won one more match, we toggle up a spot.
There was a huge crowd around Luis Scott Vargas' last round match. He was obviously going to be the 4th player for USA.
His match
and he was obviously against someone.
Count.
Yep, and he was obviously against someone else whose match did not count because it was Swiss.
Right.
So they were down in the depths, down among the dead men. But it was a huge deal. Oh, that is incredible.
The breaks were clean on 4th player score.
Okay.
That was the tiebreaker in all these cases. So
of course, you can check all this out on magicthegathering.com. We're going to do a day 2 wrap once the live webcast is over. Tomorrow, we will be back at 9:45 a.m. Eastern for those 3 rounds, the 8 pools of 32 total teams that will lead you to 16 in team constructed play, that will lead you to 8 on Sunday in team constructed play and knockout. It's been a knockout day here at the World Magic
Can't wait.
Cup.
We're going to see players tomorrow with patches of hair pulled out as they try to build 3 team sealed decks in just 60 minutes. You think Chopped is tough? This is going to be brutal. It's going to be exciting to watch. I can't wait to see who emerges from that scrum.
From the first thing this morning to the last thing at night, we thank you for being with us around the world. We know many of you in Europe are up late into the night. Do it all again tomorrow. It's going to be the most fun, we promise. For Brian David Marshall, until we meet for day 2 of the World Magic Cup 2012, I'm your host, Richard Hayne, saying bye.